Start hitting that
Not in
gavel.
order, or I would have.
Candy candy.
I know.
Let them give Terry crap. Terry, it's 8 seconds off.
Oh my God.
This one is 8 seconds faster than this.
If you can't live with 8 seconds, there's something wrong.
No, I appreciate it. You did a great job. Thank you.
G6.
Nope, I got 2 seconds. I'm gonna do the gavel. Thank you. All right. Every once in a while, I remember that I have a gavel and I get to do that. It is 6 o'clock. We will call the meeting to order, announce that there is a quorum present. And if you would join me for a word of prayer. Our dear Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, so much for this day you've given us, this beautiful weather, the opportunity to come together, Lord, and serve our community. Lord, I thank you so much for these opportunities and for our citizens and for our community. Lord, I pray that the things we do will be in your will and will bring glory and honor to the grace that you give each and every one of us. Lord, I pray that you continue to bless our military men and women as they take care of us both abroad and here at home. Lord, it's through their sacrifices that we have the freedom to come together in nights like tonight. Lord, again, I thank you for this council, for this group of men and women and our staff, the individuals who work so hard to serve this community. Lord, you know that we do this out of the love that they have for our community. And thank you so much, Lord, for your Son who has so much love for us that he died for each and every one of us. And it's in his holy name I pray. Amen. If you would join us for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God,
one and indivisible.
I don't understand how that happened last time. At this time, we will move into council announcements. This is an opportunity for council to share with each other and our citizens anything they may have on their thoughts. Council? Yes, Ms. Kaufman.
I have the privilege of pointing your attention to the quilt on the wall that was created by Shala Patton of Feathered Star Quilt Shop, and the citizens of Clyde, including yours truly, who just loves to sew and quilt. And on the Saturday of the Oktoberfest, did we start on just, yes, it started on Saturday. We had citizens here who were invited to come and just sew a line. Anybody can sew a line. The machine will do its job. You just guide. And we had children and the elderly and former quilters. We had individuals who felt like they couldn't participate anymore, and they found out that they could. And it was a very poignant moment, just an opportunity. Like, there used to be quilting bees, and everybody would sit around a quilt and work for hours, and that was news sharing, community connection. And so we had a little bit of that, and it was very good. So now it is art that is gracing the council, the council chamber. And with the buildings that we have that are new in our community, we have more space to display. There's no reason that our city buildings cannot also be galleries. So that's just food for thought, food for the future, and this quilt is the beginning. So I hope everybody enjoys it, and I hope that those viewers from Facebook can actually see it on the cameras. So anyway, Nan's shaking her head at me, but
Nan will get some
Okay.
pictures and post
Yeah.
them up, so.
And quilts are historic documents, so I'll make sure to get the information to the journal, to where it tells the story, because somewhere in the future somebody may be looking at this quilt when it's 40 or 50 years old or even older and going, how did this come to be? So we want to make sure that that information is available. So thanks to everybody who was even aware or those who participated. So we'll do it some more.
Thank you, Ms. Goff. Appreciate that. Council, any other council have comments?
I just want to thank Linda for her hospitality this afternoon. There was 4 of the city council that went to the library board meeting, and it was very informative. Thank you for what y'all do.
Anybody else? All right, then I will close out council comments section. We'll move on to public comments section. This is an opportunity for the public to step forward, be recognized, just give your name and address for the record, and then you can speak on pretty much anything you want for up to 3 minutes and public comments. I see Judge Nikki Harrell stepping her way to the podium, so if everybody doesn't know, I don't know her address, but Judge Harrell took over, was elected in November, took over at the beginning of this year. I had an opportunity yesterday to go visit with her over in Baird as they held their commissioners' court meeting, so.
And that's why I'm here. Thank you. And my intention is to try to come visit once in a while and listen and see what's going on so that I stay up with all the communities in the county. So that's the intentions, good intentions to start out. We'll see. The reason I wanted to really come up and share something with you, it was last month before I took office. Hold on.
The judge's duty is never done.
My son is gonna die when I tell him that he called me during the meeting. And it was in my hearing aid, so I had to stop it. Anyway, last month, before I took office, the Commissioners Court had already gone into an agreement. It's a coalition of counties around this area that have gone together for a public defender. And the public defender and his assistant defender is out of San Angelo, but they're gonna serve 12 different counties and help the counties in their cost of for public defending, both on adults and juveniles. So when they formed this coalition, they asked for every county to appoint a representative to be on the board, and it's an advisory board. They recommended in the proposal that it be a commissioner. If a commissioner was unable or unwilling, then to select a community leader to represent the county. So I approached Roger, and he was willing. So yesterday at Commissioners Court, he was officially appointed to serve on this board to represent Callahan County. So we appreciate that very much.
Wow.
And I'm not even sure what it's gonna entail, but he's gonna find out. I don't think it's heavy time commitment, but it's very important. So we thank you very much.
I appreciate that, so thank you, I'm glad to serve, so.
Good. And my door's open anytime you want to come to visit, until we get into the courthouse soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, any other public comments? All right, seeing none, I will close the public comments section. At this point, we'll move on to 6.0, this is consent agenda. Consider an act upon approving minutes from the regular meeting of December 13th, 2022 as printed. Unless council has anything they want to pull off of that, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as printed.
Motion to approve the minutes as printed. Second.
So I have a motion by Councilman McGuire, seconded by Councilman Martin to approve the minutes as written. All those in favor? That passed unanimously. Thank you all very much. 7.0, this is a presentation of TDA Form A1024, CDBG, Section 3, Goals and Concepts as related to the CDBG Program and Grant Agreement Number CDV21-0076. Mr. McGuire?
So, Mr. Mayor, Council, citizens, last year we were awarded a $350,000 Community Development Block Grant, which will allow us to, to replace the water and sewer lines on Fourth Street or Hill Street, Eastview Drive, and Stevens Street. The grant is funded as a federal grant passed down through the Texas Department of Agriculture from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So we have some federal rules we have to comply with because the funding is federal in nature. One of the conditions was that we must comply with Section 3 of the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968. Back in the fall, we passed a number of resolutions that we agreed that we would follow all the federal rules, all the EEO rules. And now that we're getting ready to move into award the contract, part of the ground rules of the grant is that to the greatest extent possible, the economic opportunities for the CDBG grant targeted a low-income neighborhood. But the second part of that is federal contractors. We have to comply with federal contracting law. So as this goes out to bid, it goes out on Fed Biz Ops, and small and disadvantaged and minority and women-owned businesses that employ low-income individuals go to the priority level in the when we get to the award phase of the contract. So we have to comply when we award the Section 3 business rules. It's got to be owned to the best extent possible by low-income persons, and ideally 75% of all the labor hours in the business month are performed by Section 3 workers. So there's a breakdown of numbers in the family and what makes the very low income level, the extremely low, and the low 80%. So that will all go out in the bid packages, and that will be part of the selection criteria. And then there's a map for the targeted section workers where you can see where it highlights in Callahan County is the ideal labor pool to try to draw from. And then because it is federal grant dollars, we do have an administrative burden on the back end that we need to comply with, where we track all the labor hours, man hours, and make sure that the contractor, whoever selected, is meeting all the criteria for the federal dollars. So we'll be in, that way we're in compliance with 24 CFR Part 75, and then the new Texas CDB policy issuance out in 20. So this was just some administrative housekeeping. It was a requirement that I present this to you as we move into the award phase of the contract, so that everybody was aware that these are federal dollars passed down through the state, and therefore we have federal rules to comply with.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. All right, council have any questions about the presentation? Very good. Thank you, Mr. McGuire. We'll move on to 8.0. This is public hearings. 8.1 is the final plat. This is a public hearing. So notice a public hearing on property located at being 11.94 acres of land out of the north 1/2 of the northwest 1/4 of section 65, abstract 96, BBB and CRR County Survey, Clyde, Callahan, Texas. Request is for a replat of property into 40 lots, so houses can be built on each lot. The property is currently zoned as agricultural. The public hearing will be held at Clyde City Hall today. Any interested parties may appear at this public hearing to learn more about this case. So at this time, this is open to the public for questions or comments. Anyone have any questions or comments concerning this item?
Where exactly is it located?
Where is it located? This is the 40 acres on Sunset. This is right where we have, do you know where so if you go down Sunset, you know where the Cowboy Church is there off of Southwest Drive, and then back to the west of Southwest Drive? There is a section of property now on the south side of that. There's a line of homes on that area of Sunset, and behind that is several sections of land back there. So
So it's not exactly on Sunset, it's behind or back in there.
it's the closest street, the only way you can access it at this time is on Sunset, so it's on Sunset,
So it's
yeah.
behind Is it vacant or is there houses back there?
No, there's no houses back there. It's agricultural land at this time. So they'd like to put some houses back there, which is what this part of this is to get information or answer questions. So,
And they'll have access to the 604, not to.
no, they'll have
Southwest
access onto Sunset.
On the Sunset.
Yeah, because 604, actually where Pecan Meadow is there, so there's a line of homes right there that would prevent access to 604 from there. So they'll gain 604 access from Sunset.
I'd say that's a lot of traffic to fall in the potholes on Southwest Drive if they came out that way.
Yeah, and we had another leak. Well, it's a different public hearing
I know.
there, so, okay, yes. But you're correct, yeah, that would be a lot down Southwest Drive, yes, ma'am. But it'll have access through Sunset back to Hunt Street, and then also to the west, it'll have access to 604. Anything else?
I live on Southwest Drive, I'm just going, oh, no.
Yes,
All
ma'am. Yeah. Okay, then, any other question or comment? Y'all ladies have anything else there? Nothing? All right, then I will close the public comment section on 8.1. We'll move to 8.2. This is a rezoning public hearing. Notice of public hearing on property located at being 11.94 acres of land. And I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is the exact same piece of property. Now, this just goes to the rezoning of that. So not having to reread everything there. What they want to do is request is for a rezone of property to single family 2. The property is currently zoned as agricultural. And this is the public hearing for that. So do we have any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns about this? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing on 8.2. We'll move on to our regular agenda. 9.1 is to consider with possible action to approve a final plat of property located at being 11.94 acres of land out of the north 1/2 of the northwest 1/4 of section 65 abstract 96 BBB and CRR County Survey, Clyde, County, Texas, into 40 lots. Mr. McGuire?
So, Mr. Mayor, council, citizens, this is the action that we just held the public hearing on. This case went in front of the Planning and Zoning Board for 2 consecutive meetings. It was voted unanimously out of the Planning and Zoning Board to approve the project. This supports the city's growth. We desperately need more homes. And this, so therefore, it's staff's recommendation that you approve the final plat.
Council have any thoughts or questions for Mr. McGuire?
How many homes they're gonna be, you think?
40.
40? Do we have that picture of that? I mean, it's not in.
On last month's meeting, I'm sure you don't have last month's, it was, I think, broke out in last month's, I think, when we looked at that information. I don't have it on here. We could pull it up probably on Google Earth real quick.
It's a cul-de-sac.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
It's in the notes, too, in the minutes from last time.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember that.
okay. Other thoughts, comments, questions? Seeing no other thoughts, comments, questions, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman White, seconded by Councilman Rector, to pass the approval of the final plat of property. All those in favor? It passes unanimously. Thank y'all very much. Move on to 9.2. Consider with possible action to adopt an ordinance of the City of Clyde, Texas, changing the zoning use designation of 11.94 acres of land out of the north 1/2 of the northwest 4th of section 65 abstract 96 BBB and CRR County Survey, Clyde, County, Texas, from agricultural District A to Single Family Residential District 2, SF2, amending the zoning district map for the city to reflect such change and adopting the zoning district map so amended. Mr. McGuire?
So, Mr. Mayor, council, citizens, this is the administrative piece of the final plat. We're required by law to change the ordinance, or adopt the ordinance that changes the zoning from the agricultural zoning into the single-family 2, which will allow the constructions of the 40 homes as approved on the plat. It's the staff's recommendation that this be approved.
Very good. Council, have any thoughts or questions? Again, this is follow-up to step 1 that we just went through. No thoughts or questions on it, then I'd entertain a motion here.
Make a motion, we approve the rezone. Second.
Have a motion by Councilman McGuire, seconded by Councilman Martin to approve the rezoning. All those in favor? Passed unanimously, thank you. Moving on to 9.3, Camilla White and Glenda Farmer to address council concerning new water meters. Ms. Farmer and Ms. White, if y'all come to the podium. Thank y'all for being here, I appreciate y'all. Yes,
Thanks
we
for
are
having us.
welcome.
It was brought to my attention.
Can I get your name and address?
Glenda Farmer. Well,
Belinda?
Glinda.
Belinda.
Glenda, and then Farmer, like Farmer in the Dale. And it's 105 Southwest Drive.
Did you need mine? I got it, 525 South First.
Yes. Okay. It was brought to my attention, probably 6 weeks ago, that I had a new water meter. And the water meter I now have is locked, and I do not have a shut-off valve that have access to.
Yes, ma'am.
And if she hadn't told me, do you know that, your meter's out there, I'd have never known that. Well, I don't know if y'all know where I live, but I probably put as much money in the house as what I paid for the thing to begin with. And one of my biggest problems is pipes breaking.
Yes.
We're redoing a lot of stuff, which it's happened quite a bit. And if I hadn't had access to it, I'd have flooded my house. Well, now I don't have access to it. And it wasn't so much that I don't have access to it, it's the fact that I didn't know that. I feel like it needs to be made public. I think you need to be more transparent with the citizens. If it hadn't been for her, I wouldn't even known it. Now, I've come up and he was real gracious to sit down with us and talk to us about it. But now I'm gonna have to put in my own shut-off valve,
Yes.
which I will do. But it'd been nice to know that I needed that before I got in trouble with broken lines again. So I'm not happy about that.
Well, to that point,
Uh-huh.
and I don't think this will make you any happier, and I
Well, I'm
apologize
all
in
right.
advance,
No, I'm
but
all right.
to that point, and I agree with you that more residents need to know this. And so thank you for bringing this up, because this is something that staff and council will work harder on, and that is letting everyone know. But prior to getting the new meter, all of those rules still applied. You should still have a shut-off valve on there. You, as any citizen in the city, were never supposed to have access to that meter to begin with. It's not within the ordinance that allows a customer access to that meter or to turn that meter on and off on their own. Now, the horrible thing about the way things have always been done is that that's the way we've always done them,
Right.
and that's not always a good thing. With the new meters, that allows us, and yes, the reason that we lock them out is because we are now moving forward with making the progressive changes to help us in the future. So like yourself, myself, on my property, where I've gone to my meter myself and shut my water off because I had a water leak. You're very right. It was much easier just to do that on our own. But each one of us were in the wrong for doing that. Now, when you're in the wrong and you don't know you've been in the wrong, it's not so much that you should or can be held accountable. Now, obviously you can and should.
Right.
But when we do know now that there is something, and we do know now that that's wrong, then if we continue to do it, then that's where we're having
Well,
problems.
the
So
fine would be much less than the damage to the house, so you're kind of,
that
it's a
doesn't
50-50
really,
thing. I know
yeah,
what you're
that
saying.
doesn't really make
I know
it
what you're
okay,
saying, But, I understand now that we're getting an app on our phone,
Yes.
which will tell us a little bit more. And I always watch my meter, because if I have a leak, I can tell right off. And I kept an eye on it quite a bit. Well, I can't even read it now.
And that was the point we were making before, is that you can't even look at your meter to see if there is a leak
And you're
without
right.
having to call
And we
somebody
maintain
out
them.
so that we can look.
And now with the new program that goes into effect, once everything is done and everything is accomplished, and yes, as with every new thing, there's things to work out and problems to
Right.
fix. When that happens, the benefit will be so much better to us, to customers, because again, I have a meter, also, that with this program, the way it's set up, not only will you now not have to walk out to your meter, like in the old times when we would go out, lift the lid, look in there, knock the dirt off of it and the spiders and cobwebs to look at that meter, whether it's running. Now you'll actually be able to be notified when you have a leak. In the past, if you wanted to go check your meter and you were gonna go do it, now, I'm speaking of it from experience on
Right.
this. When you go look at that meter, it's because now you have the idea that you have a leak. One, you had low water pressure in your house. Two, you walked across the front yard and your feet got wet. Or three, you got your bill and realized it was about 8,000 gallons more than you used last month. Then you go look at that meter.
No,
Well-
I watch
not
it on a week. I watch
necessarily.
it on
Well,
a
and
basis.
that's great for
Yeah.
y'all.
After a
That's
big-
very smart. I wasn't
Have
that
to.
smart, obviously, so.
After a hard freeze, that's when I've been meaning to call to have somebody open it where I can look, because,
But
I
now
wanna make
you
sure.
won't have to have anybody even open it to look. You'll be able to see that on your phone. You'll be able
But
to see
that's
it on
not
your
coming
app.
up for what, another month?
Okay,
I
but
mean,
if
I
we
even know
don't
how
start
long.
somewhere, how do we get to that better process
Right,
later?
we just need,
So we have
we
to
need
start somewhere.
access to our meters till you get to that point.
Well, then unfortunately, again, this is the part that doesn't set well, but unfortunately, now when you want access to your meter, you will need to call the city and have us come out
I
and open
have,
that up
they've
for
come
you.
and opened it for me and we've checked it and stuff, but they,
And we will continue to do that for our citizens. We will do everything possible, but we absolutely have to make these changes to move forward so that in the future, the way we used to do things in the past is not even thought of. That's not how we did it. That's not how we do it now, because now we're so much better.
well, you
We're
need
so
to
much
help
further
us
advanced.
move forward with you.
Well, absolutely, and
I
I agree,
mean-
and I apologize to you because that's exactly what we should do. Now, once we are closer to this, we will be having, public meetings, we will be having a town hall type deal where we will have performance services and everybody come in and they will actually break this down and explain it. The unfortunate part is sometimes when we take on new things, council and staff does a great job here. They do a lot of background check. I see so many times where people just question us on, well, do y'all have any idea what you're doing? Yes, we actually do. We put a lot of time and effort into this. Even as much time and effort as we put into it, we sometimes miss something. The idea that we could have done a better job of letting people know that as these new meters come in, you will no longer have the access that you used to have,
Is that
regardless
everybody?
of whether, no, nobody will. So
Okay.
regardless of whether it was okay to have that access in the past, or it was wrong to have that access in the past, and you just didn't know. Again, it's the way we always did it. We should have done a better job of letting you and all the citizens know that even as much as we try, and of course now, Ms. White has come to several of these meetings, so she gets a lot more of the information. If more people came to the meetings or looked and actually accessed the information that's available to everybody on a daily basis, then more citizens would know, because we try very hard to do that. But can we do better? I think so. And
Can
will
you
we?
do,
We
can you
will.
do a column in the paper every week?
We could, yes, and if.
I read the paper
yeah,
every
and-
Thursday.
And that's
you know?
great. Now, let me ask you this. You read the paper.
Mm-hmm.
I read the paper. Does every single person in Clyde read the
Well,
paper?
not everybody would have to, but
Exactly.
they'd
So
be
then
talking
that
more, I
isn't,
think.
I don't reach every single person. Now, when I first took over as mayor 3 terms ago, I did do a weekly column in the paper. You would be amazed at how fast you run out of things to say when you try to do it
Well,
weekly.
you're doing a lot now, though, you know? I
Oh,
mean,
there's more going on.
there's
Yeah,
more going
yeah.
on.
And
stuff.
if you look, again, nothing against our newspaper. Jerry, are you back there still? Jerry does a great job. Mr. Reed is from the paper, and he puts his stuff in there, and we
Mm-hmm. Well,
talk
he
on a
has to
weekly
have,
basis.
have something to print too.
Yeah.
So if you could, you know, let it come from his office.
My point was
Me.
going to be that the newspaper is not our only means of information,
Right.
especially, and again, one of those things that doesn't set well sometimes. We live in a society today where social media
Right.
is more. Now, that doesn't take away from the fact that, again, we put information in the paper every week or every month. Things that come along, we always include the Clyde Journal in the information we put out
I
there.
read it, but I didn't
Yeah.
catch that about my
Well,
meter.
no, and agree, I agree with you. I wish at this point we would have put something in the paper that said, hey, by the way, as you get these new meters, don't be surprised when you can't go look at them yourself.
Well, everyone needs a turn-off valve when they can't get to it.
And you are
And
able
I'm
to
going
put
to.
one in.
I am
every-
going to,
yes.
but I gotta pay for it, and I'm not getting a permit, so don't throw that at me.
I'm not gonna
I'm
address
permitted
that, not
out.
gonna address that right now, that's
Well,
on you.
We're
But I'm
glad
saying-
that the app is gonna allow us to be able to shut our water off when we're out of town, at least at that point, that'll allow us to
Well, and the app
keep
doesn't
that.
allow that.
It
The
does
app
not?
doesn't-
Okay, well.
No.
That was what was
Oh, well,
explained to.
now the city can do
system-
that, that's,
The system does.
yeah, and
But
that,
that
and so I
supposedly if
apologize.
we go out of town, we can go
You
through
can set the
our,
you can
ours.
set the notification.
Yeah.
We could basically have it cut off, or basically closed,
set
where
it
we
up
don't
to
have
do
to
that.
worry that
Yeah.
if something happens, that it would flood the house.
And my thought on that was still going back to the manual shut-off
No,
valve.
no,
that
we're
citizens
talking
do.
about the
Because
app.
then you could always do that. Again, you put your own valve in there, you can shut your water off anytime you want.
And then, as I explained to you, as soon as Deal, the meter manufacturer, is beta testing the remote shut-off, as soon as they are 100% comfortable, because they have to guarantee it, that if it fails and your house floods, it's on them,
Okay.
then you will, from the smartphone, have the ability to shut your water meter off. Right now, you call in, you let us know you're going on vacation, and we can shut your meter down, and you can still monitor usage while you're
And
gone and
there's
see.
no fees
There's no
involved for doing
fees.
that?
No, there's no
And if we
fees.
come home Sunday, we could get it turned back on?
We have people on call 7 days a week. All you have to do is call.
And as far as response, I mean, how long do they have if we wanna have it looked at that day to make sure there's not a leak going on? I mean, do they respond the same day,
Yes.
or is there a certain amount of?
Now, when you call and make a request for water, we have people that are during the day that handle all those requests.
Well, I mean, just to look at the meter and make sure there's not a leak, in case, well, you know, like I say, with the freeze, sometimes you can't see everything, it's underground. There may not be anything boiling up, it may be something small. And that's one of the things I like to, especially after something got that, you know, if my wellhead cracked, then I know there's a possibility that there's something, you know,
All you need
I wanna
to do
make
is
sure.
call up here to the front desk, and we dispatch public works crews all day long. And then there's there's a duty phone, and somebody's on call 24 hours a day.
Is that on our bill, the duty phone or the phone number to get people
The-
after hours?
Yeah, the after-hours number is posted.
It's also on our, if you call up here, it's on our
Recording.
message.
It's on recording.
It's on the recording, so there's always somebody that's available 24 hours a day.
Okay.
And we do understand that this new process creates some adjustment and some problems. And that's why, like this, if you call us, we're gonna come take care of it. It's not gonna be a charge for it. We know that making these changes are things that that council is doing on behalf of the betterment for the community. And it causes some problems. So we're doing everything we can. And like yourself, when you give us information and ideas that can help us serve you better, that's great, because those are things that we will then use, just like being able to come out there.
Yeah. Well,
It's
when-
unfortunate that so few people take as much time to involve themselves as y'all have. So thank you very much for your involvement and letting us know how we can better serve you. That's what we need. We
It can
need
be
your help.
fixed.
Yes.
It can be fixed, but when plumbers come out, they charge me by the hour.
Yeah.
And I can't sit there waiting for y'all to come turn my
No.
my water off,
Yep.
and I'm paying, 3 hours later, I finally get some help, and I pay this guy $25 an hour a
I
day.
agree. That's why, unfortunately,
You know?
the part of that where your fix is, which it comes down to a citizen's responsibility at that point, is to put that shut-off valve on your side of the meter. I
Oh,
mean,
well, I will now.
yeah,
Some of them.
and and then we're out, individually, we're out.
I
We're
don't
gonna
guess
have to
y'all
do
are
that.
willing to put in that.
No, probably
Shut
not.
up.
They're not gonna come put mine in for me, so, yeah, I don't think, you're right. But I'll tell you this, there's those of us out there who are willing to help, and all you gotta do is reach out to us. So, I mean, beyond the city part of
We gotta
that.
trace down the water line and everything else. You know, my meter sits in the ditch, the drainage ditch. So it's gonna be covered with water every time it rains. And when I got to look at it and everything, when Jerry come out, we went through it. I used to run a water association in New Mexico in the desert, and I'm out. It was miserable. But I know that meter is gonna be saturated, because it's down in the ditch, in my drainage ditch on 18. So we've gotta trace it all the way back, and I gotta get it back so that when they come to mow, and everything, I've got it all secured. But this has been a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, I do apologize for the troublesome part of it, but I do hope that you'll continue to bear with us, and I think that you'll benefit greatly from it once we're
If you'll just keep
fine.
us informed and no sneaky peeks again, because it put me in a bad situation.
Well, they didn't put notice on the door when they did actually install them.
No.
So the only reason we knew is because I happened to see them out front. There was, in the reminder y'all put out said that they would let us know when they were actually doing the work. And the
No.
subcontractor did not. They just went down the line. Nobody knocked on the door, put something on the door to let us know that they were there.
They
just
did at
went
my
down.
house.
They didn't all our block.
Yeah,
I know
they
she
hung it at
didn't,
my
I
house.
didn't see any of them actually walk up and put anything.
Did you get the mailer from the city about the new meters? We sent out a mailer.
We got the mailer.
Okay.
We just didn't, when the guys actually came in and
Right.
did it, we didn't know they were there that day. In other words, if it wasn't for me noticing them, I could have been washing dishes at the moment and noticed, and my water just,
Yeah, they
It's like-
actually knocked on my door and
yeah.
hung a
And
thing.
see, they didn't knock on mine, they didn't knock
You're
on
important.
hers.
They didn't know who I was, trust me.
So
I'm
they,
not important.
they just went on down 18 doing the meters, but never knocked on the door. I didn't see them approach any house, because I seen them when they first came to mine, and I kinda got the idea when I saw them stopping. One guy was doing something, another guy came through, did something else, another guy did his part, and there was like 4 doing different parts of the,
Right.
of the meter change. And I wasn't even sure, but then when I seen them start really getting down in the meter and messing with things, then, I mean, like I say, I don't even think, I know for my block, they didn't. There was probably from Southwest Drive to Hunt Street that they just, went on down the line. They didn't knock, they just went on down the road. They didn't tell you they
A
were
little bit
installing.
of notification goes a long way,
Yes, ma'am.
you know.
That's the only reason she knew, is because I told her, I said, hey,
But no,
your
mine's
water might
not
be
like
off.
that. Mine's not. Oh, yeah,
But
it
I
was.
mean, yeah, you wouldn't have known they had just
Yeah.
changed
That
it.
But
is-
we're fixing to, the guys came today to do the turn-off valve, and I said, don't do it today. Wait till after tonight. And do I have to have a permit for this? How much money y'all gonna get out of me? How much money do I need for a permit to put this in?
When you hire the plumber that you're gonna hire, you'll need it, he'll pull your permit.
You're the most permit man I ever saw.
I know, and unfortunately,
Got me
well,
on my key shed and everything.
But that gets passed on to
Hey, I
the,
told you that you have
doesn't
a
that
nice
get
she shed.
passed on to us
Now,
as the plumber's
the
fee?
plumber,
Won't he
if you
pass
would,
that
though.
on for a
What is
permit?
it now?
tomorrow, would
If he
you,
gets the permit from
don't
you,
call
then
anybody
it's
else
still
till I'm
passed
able to talk to you
the
tomorrow.
customer?
Okay.
please?
No, he's pulling
Okay.
the permit
But
from you.
to answer your
But I mean,
question,
that's,
Yeah.
yes,
that's gonna be
permits are
rolled into his
required. And
charge,
again, the
right?
reason for that is
That's what I
that
mean. In other words, whatever he
by
gets, has to pay you. he's gonna
requiring
pass on
permits for all the
fee.
things we
I would
do,
think that's
it
sort of
allows
how
us
it
to
works.
put everything on this
Okay,
even
because haven't had
field
to-
where everybody knows.
You're getting a
We're
service.
finding out now as, hold on one second.
Right, but if we're required to have to put in a shut off,
Okay.
we're getting charged to have a permit to put it in.
It's not
Which-
required.
But you're
You're not
getting,
required to put one in.
Yes, we are, if we
Yes,
wanna
we
be able
are.
to shut our
No,
water off.
yeah,
we
it's
have
not a
to put one in.
requirement, it's an option that you
Yeah.
do, and if you choose that option, then yes, there are responsibilities to your choice. So,
Everybody should
yes.
have a shut-off valve.
Yeah, everybody should, we all should, all of us
I
should.
mean, that was
have
our
it.
understanding, is that we're, that's something we're gonna have to do.
You're not gonna have to, but if you want. Now, let me just say this, you are very persistent about making sure that you have all your ducks in a row, correct?
Right.
That's a
Right.
great thing.
Right.
Wonderful. Not everybody does that. Some people could care less, and I'm not saying that that's the
A
way
lot
to
of
be,
people
I'm
could care
saying.
less, I know.
Yeah, so I'm saying, that's why we can't make that a mandatory thing, and we can't tell you that's what you have to do on that. It's an option for everyone to do. It's a good
Well,
responsibility to
If
do.
you're
Well, not everybody words it that, I mean, cause I've got another place where they put in a meter, and they put a shut-off valve on my side when they put in the meter.
Yeah.
And basically, there was, and I've always understood even from that water department, that it was a requirement to have a shut-off on my end of the water meter.
For new
So-
construction, it is, it is.
So,
Yeah, it is.
I mean, if it's a requirement, then why are we having to
Cause you're not a new
suck up the
construction.
charge for it? And if we can't, can't shut the
Well,
water
because
off?
it's not a requirement in the city that you have your own shut off. you're opting to do that.
Well, if you're smart, you'll have a shut-off valve,
And I
Exactly.
wish more people were as smart as y'all.
because
I
you've
wish
got
they
to
were.
have them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because the cleanup is a lot worse.
Oh, yes.
Now, today, they came and worked on my dishwasher, and I held a hose shut so they could fix my dishwasher, because they were there and they had to get it done and get out, and I couldn't wait to make them turn off my water.
I get you.
So, but I am gonna put in a turn off, I mean, a shut off. You just tell me how much it's gonna cost me with y'all to get things
Terry
done.
will be the one to
Yeah.
tell you what the permit's gonna cost the plumber, which is gonna get passed.
Yeah,
along.
all right.
Thank you
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. White. Thank you, Ms. Farmer. Appreciate y'all very much for coming in and talking with us. All right. Moving on to 9.4. At this point, let me double check. Moving on to 9.4, consider with possible action to approve an ordinance of the City of Clyde, Texas, dissolving the Planning and Zoning Commission, revising Exhibit 10A subdivision ordinance and Exhibit 14A zoning ordinance of the Clyde Code of Ordinances to reflect such dissolution, providing for related procedural changes, providing repealer and severability clauses, and establishing an effective date. Mr. McGuire?
So, Mr. Mayor, council citizens, I believe it was 3 years ago that council adopted the ordinance to establish a planning and zoning commission. And the rationale behind it was it was gonna lessen the administrative burden on city staff. Unfortunately, that's not the case. It's actually put more work on city staff to do it. It's required multiple meeting nights with city staff, having to stay over to hold these meetings. We've had we've had trouble maintaining board members. They've moved on to different boards. They've decided that the time burden on their own personal time was not worth it. With the amount of work that's going on in the city and the growth, it makes no sense from the staff's perspective to hold multiple meetings when the staff is doing all the work. It's easier for us to come talk to council and present everything to you and expedite the whole process instead of 2 nights in a row of meetings, twice a month to do things. We can streamline processes, we can cut down on the administrative burden on staff and the cost to staff, because every time I hold somebody over to hold these meetings and do things, there's overtime, there's cost incurred. In theory, it was a good idea, but the practicality of it over the last 3 years has proven that it didn't meet the expectations. So it's our recommendation that you adopt this ordinance and we dissolve the planning and zoning, and community development and myself that do the lion's share of all the ordinance and work on everything will have the ability to just take everything straight to council, because you're basing everything off staff recommendation anyway.
And council knows we've discussed this in the past, we've thought about this, and it is true. It is something we put in place several years ago, and it was a good thought and a good process at the time, but we found at this point that it's more effective to have it streamlined, and as far as governors of the financial side of it, it also makes more sense now to not continue spending money unnecessarily on that. So, council, have any thoughts or questions, concerns concerning the dissolution of the current Planning and Zoning Board? If none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the changes in the ordinance to dissolve the Planning and Zoning Board.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Rector, seconded by Councilman McGuire to approve the dissolution. All those in favor? That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. 9.5, the individuals had pulled that, so we won't mess with that. Moving on to 10.0, this is executive session. This is where council may enter into a closed executive session to discuss the following. This is where we will move in to speak on economic development, at which point we will come back out into open session, let you know if there's any action to be taken. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the point where you can either stick around for a little bit, or you may leave. And you will not hurt our feelings if you leave. You're welcome to stay. It may not take that long, it take a couple of minutes or, you know, however long it takes in the discussion side. So, thank you all for being here. We appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. And at this time, we will move into closed session. So you're free to go or stay. Thank y'all.
I got distracted by that. It's 3190,
And, you know, on one hand, you hate to
79.
Thank you. Because people always ask me. Yes, we do.
I may know what you're talking about, but.
I'll send them.
Oh, okay.
I'm just playing. This is Becky with the new TV. She's. I'm sitting here. We need to pick it around.
John, how it is.
How are you, sir? But just get her name and number. We need to discuss it with a couple of us.
Make sure y'all do it.
She's our EDC queen.
Keep who out of it. If she wants to pay for the material.
How are you?
Based on 100.
Well, I hope we
Roger
were,
Wayne.
did we go into, oh, I'm in trouble, she said my middle name. Are we still live?
You should have said yes.
Hey, it depends on whether Chris pushed the button or not. I don't control, Chris controls.
That's what I said on the side.
Oh my gosh, hey, we're not still live, right?
Right, that's in